Afternoon, I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show that comes your way at 4 p.m. Eastern every weekday. Mike Tomlin had his press conference a couple hours ago over on the South Side, and he I don't even know how to describe this. He didn't even acknowledge knowing about George Pickens' eye black. You know, the thing that said always blanking open. Just watch this. Chris HCK from DK Pittsburgh Sports asks the question.
Mike, you mentioned your guys played hard. Did you have any level of concern with George Pickens' effort or with the message that he had on his eye black?
Again, I don't know what messaging you're talking about regarding his eye black. I didn't have any outline issue with his effort. As I mentioned after the game, I think someone asked about a reduction in his total number of snaps. That's just a snap management thing and an effort to be more productive. In today's game regarding analytics, we do it across a lot of positions. Particularly when you look at the totality of a 17-game schedule. I'd imagine Cam Hayward, for example, is playing less snaps than he has. Just trying to grow and trying to get optimum productivity among some individuals and going about the best means of doing so. And so that's probably a reflection of the snap totality of last week.
Okay, to carve this up into two slices, even if they aren't necessarily even slices. On one hand, Tomlin is choosing to address Pickens' snap count, why it's been reduced over the past couple of weeks. He reiterated, as you heard, that he feels that Pickens can be more dynamic if he's running fewer routes in total. And while that sounds kind of like, really, we're supposed to buy that, there's something to be said for it, okay? At least there's a case to be made. Telling us that you didn't see the eye black. This man observes everything about everybody. He also picks and chooses what it is that he acknowledges. And that can be in a press conference setting, that can be in a football practice, that can be in a football game. And that's his right, I guess, to an extent. You don't want to go out and out lying. And I've not known him to be an out-and-out liar. But if you asked me, pistol to the temple here, if I believed for a second that he wasn't aware of what was written on that eye black, the question that Chris asked, come on. I mean, look, nobody's looking for, let's dig up something on George. Let's really stick it to George. Let's chase George out of town, the way I'm sure it's going to end up getting painted sooner rather than later. It's that we all saw it. We all saw not just the eye black. In fact, the eye black is the least of it. We saw the lazy routes. We saw the one route in particular, the pass to Pat Freiermuth on the right side. He didn't even bother running. He just kind of took 2 or 3 little steps off the line of scrimmage as if he was doing like a break drill. That's not something that Tomlin has to air out publicly, but I don't know that it would hurt. I was in that locker room. I was going to say Sunday night. It's actually early Monday morning after that game. And I have players seeking me out to talk to me about this, about George and whatever. That means it's a real problem. I'm nobody. Tomlin is very much somebody. They're trying to get a message out. They're trying to plead, I think, for some sort of accountability, because if George isn't doing what he's supposed to do, if George isn't feeling the weight of accountability, it brings the whole offense down, because he's the only wide receiver. If he isn't doing what he's supposed to do, you're throwing a football to Van Jefferson that he drops. You're throwing a football to Calvin Austin across the middle for 6 yards in which he's just going to get slammed to the ground. You're not getting anything else out of anybody else in that wide receiver room. So they know that they need him. They might not respect him. They might not even like him, but they need him. They need him to be a good teammate. And that can't always come from within. The most accountable player's environment, regardless of who your leader is, and in this case, remember that the offensive captain isn't even playing. That's Russell Wilson. You still need the coaches. whether that's, in this case, Zach Ghazzani, the wide receivers coach, whether that's Arthur Smith, whether that's Tomlin. I would think it's Tomlin. So to handle things the way he did today, I don't like it. I don't think it helps the offense. I don't think it helps the Steelers. But I know why he does it. I know why he does it, because he's been doing it for years and years. All he thinks about is the next game. He's not building something. He's not putting somebody on the field because they might be able to blossom by December. He's not doing any of that stuff that you routinely see, by the way, in professional sports, across professional sports. This guy, he's maybe not so hot right now, but man, if we're going to be a contender and his ceiling is up here, we need to get him on the field. Think like Roman Wilson. Okay, Roman Wilson might not be your best choice to face the Raiders on Sunday in Las Vegas. There's a very good possibility, because the stuff that I've heard is that he's not going to be, either fully healthy. I don't know. Let's presume he's healthy. Okay. He's not going to be fully prepared. He's not going to be on that moving train, the way Tomlin likes to describe. Okay. Put him out there. Let him get on the moving train. Let him get, let him take his punches, so to speak, in the NFL, because you'll be a better football team for having an actual other wide receiver option. Tomlin doesn't do that. So all he's thinking about where George is concerned is, I can't make George mad. I can't take off George because I need George on Sunday against the Raiders in Las Vegas. It's all he's thinking about. And that's part of the reason, and I've been saying this for a long time, this isn't new today, that Tomlin's teams do well or fairly well in the regular season and then get bombed in the playoffs.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris HCK, who asked Mike Tomlin the question today about George Pickens and his eye black. And Chris, we're talking now for the first time since then, and I have to find out from you, did you think he was going to tell you that he didn't even notice it?
No, what I expected was kind of what he said about the other behavior stuff, about like slamming his helmet down and pulling the Cowboys defender down by his face mask, of that stuff that we handle behind closed doors and so on and so forth, that type of thing. To say he didn't know about it, it's Tuesday. New York is probably already made a phone call or sent a letter or something.
Yeah. I mean, and not to mention, as much as Tomlin will purport to not paying any attention to the outside world, he does that a lot. He'll say, tune out the noise and whatever else. And, we don't listen to this. We don't read what you guys write and everything else. He actually does. He actually does. I've been around the man for 2 decades now, and I've seen many, many, many examples of it, not to mention heard peripherally many examples where he's aware of everything. He's aware of everything, but his wide receiver doing this, I'm going to guess he made, eye contact with George at least once over the span of 3 hours plus a storm delay. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought he would do what you said, which is just say, hey, listen, that's none of your business, Chris HCK. That's none of your, it's not your concern, or I'm not going to give you what you want. That's one of his better lines to reporters when there's something that's asked that he does. I'm not going to give it to you. How the hot dog is made or something. But don't just say you didn't know about it. Come on.
Yeah. So, and I, you've known this. I mean, you covered Mike Tomlin way longer than I have, but we both know you have to ask questions in a specific way in order to get an answer.
Because he'll got you. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. And so that's why I just asked him straight up, was like, did you have an issue with the level of effort? And did you have an issue with I don't even like asking him yes or no questions, but
Yeah, you can't because he'll give you yes or no.
But see, that's the thing is that I actually chose to go with a yes or no question because I'm putting it in his court at that at that moment, because it's like, okay, you either had an issue with the effort and with the message on his face, or you didn't. And he didn't give a yes or no. He went on to explain, I didn't know about a message, and I was just like,
and the part of this is that's the biggest shame is that, okay, so you ask a two-pronged question, and he took the eye black part and blew it with that, in my opinion, and then went on to repeat his answer related to the snap counts. But it didn't address your first portion of the question, which was the effort. So if you look at Pickens on film, and you and I have both done that, and the extraordinary non-effort that was given on those routes that he was supposed to be extra energized for because he was getting fewer snaps, that's a legit issue. He elected to not discuss it. He elected to do that. And that, to me, is just yet another sign of how he sees somebody who's super talented and just says, I can't make him mad. I can't lose him. And that leads me to the next issue. What I think should be the next logical issue here is you and I have both seen plenty of Van Jefferson, plenty of Calvin Austin, great guys and all that other stuff. None of this is any kind of dig at them. But these are not NFL WR2 types, to put it lightly. So why is it that Omar Khan, it feels to me like it's still all or nothing when it comes to wide receiver? Brandon Ayuk didn't get the best guy available. Oh, well, we're out. And now the next guy is in the mix is obviously Davante Adams. You know what? There's a lot of ground between Van Jefferson and these other two dudes we're talking about here. Why not just go and get yourself a WR2 from somebody?
And honestly, that's probably the more realistic move that's made prior to the trade deadline. I don't, this isn't inside reporting or anything like that, I don't think the Steelers are going to acquire Davante Adams. I think they'll try, but to their comfort level. But I do think that it's more realistic for them to go get a WR2 type rather than getting themselves another bona fide number one receiver, and in which you have two number one receivers. Regarding the George Pickens, level of effort, snap management thing, Tomlin did later clarify that the appearance of him like jogging or not running at full speed or anything is part of that plan.
Right.
But it's just like, again, it's not a good look on the surface. And then again, if you're minimizing his snap count in order to do such a thing, then why is it that whenever he's out there running a crosser in which he's the first read, why is he not sprinting across the field? And so that's why it's a question that came up multiple times today. And obviously I wasn't the only one who asked about it. This was an issue that needed to be addressed in a lot, on a number of layers here. And I don't think it was fully addressed. And I don't think that Tomlin's answer satisfied what people wanted to hear.
And the answers can come from different directions. Okay, it doesn't just have to be on George. Yes, George is he's your premier playmaker by an uncomfortable margin. Although I think of Jaylen Warren as that whenever he's in the lineup. I don't think of Najee Harris that way. I do think of Jaylen that way. That's just, there has to be multiple solutions to this. Okay, there has to be a lot of different ways to look at this, and it can't just be about George. Chris, my number one concern about the wide receiver position, but George specifically entering the season, because you know how I've never had a problem with George. I liked him. I thought he was a pretty decent kid, and I also thought, based on that feisty reputation, not that nonsense with the face mask and whatever afterward, but everything else, okay, that he's got those gutty blocks and everything like that, at least you're going to get effort out of him. Antonio Brown was a spectacular solar system-sized headache, but AB gave it everything, every practice, and then after practice, and then in games. You never had to wonder whether or not AB was putting out, right? Right. Well, in George's case, this that this has to be stopped. This isn't the same thing. This has to be stopped right where it is. And I think it has to be stopped in a visible, vocal way, not behind closed doors. It has to be something that everyone can see.
Yeah, anytime there's effort in question, or anytime
Yes.
there's somebody not possibly giving 100%, whether that be an attitude or whether that be an actual physical performance, that typically is something that's nipped in the bud. We all remember what happened with HCK last year. As soon as there was even mention or a whiff of possibly giving up in a game, like he didn't see the field again. Probably I don't think.
No. Chooks, for anybody who doesn't know, and we reported this exclusively at the time, Chooks' thing was that he saw there wasn't much time left in the game. He thought the Steelers should be kneeling. Well, mathematically, there was still a chance for them to win the game. So no, Chooks. And then that was the end of Chooks in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and so anytime there's a level of effort in question, that's typically been nipped in the bud. And so this is why I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. Maybe the reason why they're trying to make sure, be overly cautious and make sure that they're going to keep George Pickens healthy is because they know they can't roll with Van Jefferson as a number one receiver. They have to keep George Pickens healthy, and if that means that he's going to have to play at less than 100% at times, then so be it. It sucks to hear, and maybe that just should put more fire under Omar Khan's seat.
I mean, how much fire do you need? He's sitting on $10.5 million in cap space, and his WR2, Van Jefferson, what's he at 1.3?
Yeah, it's not
something
much.
Like that. I mean, that's nothing. That's pulling a wide receiver off the scrap heap, respectfully speaking here, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into, dramatic terminology like, dereliction of duty or whatever, but it isn't far from it when it comes to this specific instance. This position has to be addressed, and I think it has to be addressed not this week, last week.
I agree. This is if they don't somehow make any kind of addition before the trade deadline, just go ahead and wave the white flag on the season. I'll be the chief scorer for, because even if you keep Pickens healthy, if this is going to be the George Pickens that plays for the rest of the year, you're not going to be getting George Pickens at his absolute best. You'll get him at his absolute best when he has somebody opposite across
pushing him.
Yes, somebody that can get open, somebody else that can get targets and strike some fear in the defense. Deontay Johnson, for all of his inadequacies, could still get open on literally any single down, and defenses had to respect that. They had to put some sort of coverage over there.
All right, tell everybody what you want to tell them now about Deontay. I know you do.
Well, I mean, Deontay was a guy that they if you're going to trade him away.
About anybody who wants him back.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, no,
you're not allowed to.
You can't have him back. You can't. Yeah. The NFL won't. The NFL, because of rules, you can't trade a player away and then reacquire him via trade. Not until 2 years later. So Deontay's not coming back. So you have to get somebody.
Got to go get somebody. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Time now for J1Q. That stands for Just One Question. For that, we go to Stephen Herwald in Cranston, Rhode Island.
Hi, DK. What do you see as being the reasons behind Pat Freiermuth and the rest of the tight ends to date not having a real big positive impact on the offense's passing game? Thought this was supposed to be a big Arthur Smith emphasis. Have the tight ends had to do more overall blocking because of the O-line injuries and problems? Or are there other reasons as well?
There's a lot of layers to what you asked there, Stephen. Kind of like all the layers that were on your head there. It was such a great level-headed question, and here comes Stephen all dolled up and everything. Kind of threw me there. Pat Freiermuth needs to get the football more. Let's start there. When you're throwing downfield, as Justin Fields did a couple of times against the Cowboys, and your main guy that you're focused on is Darnell Washington. Look, if Darnell gets it, it's awesome. Everybody's stoked, and look at the big man going down the field for the touchdown. But that ball's got to go to Freiermuth. I don't care if he's covered. I don't care who you're being clever on or whatever. You got to get the ball to your best players. You don't target Darnell down there. You don't target Connor Hayward. If you've got options, you target 88. Okay, let's start right there. Pat is not seeing enough targets. He had 0 in the first half. 0. When they really, really, really needed a touchdown down by the goal line in the second half, who'd they go to? Right, that neat little shovel pass. Wonderful. Got to do it a lot more often. He's a weapon, and you're just leaving him in the holster, which makes no sense. So start there. Am I seeing the tight ends being forced to block more? No. I'm seeing the tight ends doing exactly, from the blocking standpoint, what the plan was all along, and that includes Freiermuth, that includes Darnell. So I'm not in a mood here to make any sort of excuses for Arthur Smith in this sense. He's the tight end guy. He's the one who's supposed to be putting all those guys out there so he can, get the most out of them. And instead, what you're seeing is almost like, even in his comments last week, Smith's, about Darnell after Darnell had the touchdown and whatever, is like, I've never had somebody like this. This is great. This is wonderful to have someone like this. It's like a shiny new toy or whatever. Great. Go with the one that that works. Go with the one that the Steelers just paid a mint to. He wants the football. He's not about to complain and get whiny or however else he put it the other day, but he wants the football. He wants to make plays. Let him make plays. Throw the ball to him. When you throw over the middle, instead of throwing to Calvin Austin so that he gets engulfed by 10 black hole suns, get it to Freiermuth and hope you get an extra couple yards, maybe a first down out of it. Use him. This doesn't have to be anywhere near this hard. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.